Hey, friends! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host, Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey, Hearties! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, joined by my co-host, Brennan, and today we are very excited to be chatting with the fabulous Natasha Burnett. Welcome to the podcast, Natasha. We are
Thank
thrilled
you
to
so
have you.
much. I'm
Yeah.
happy to be here.
Yeah. So our first question is, how did you get started in the film and TV industry, and what inspired you to become an actor?
My start has always been performing. I don't think I remember a time where I didn't do it. Although I've never had any other job but being in the industries. But I always knew when I was at school that it was the area I wanted to go into. But of course, like anything, it's not always that easy to get into it and you're not sure how and you just trial and error, just seeing what's out there. And so that's how I ended up starting in theatre over film and TV. But I was doing sort of background work as well because I just wanted to know what it was like on set and what that would feel like and how long the days were and things like that. So I did my theatre for a good number of years, about 6 years, and then I just wanted to see what else was out there. I wanted to see what else I could try, and I still had a passion for the industry. It was just figuring out where I wanted to go next.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And you're an incredible actor, and we are glad that you're part of the
Thank
Hallmark
you.
family.
Yeah, I love that I was accepted into the Hallmark family
Yes.
so well.
And the theater is great too. I always enjoyed my drama classes. What have you enjoyed most about working in theater? And then what do you enjoy most about working in TV, film and TV?
Theatre, I definitely like that it's live.
Yeah.
I like the adrenaline.
Hmm.
Um, I like that it's a medium that actually requires quite a lot of discipline and a lot of work. Um, your memory has to be
Hmm.
pretty
Yeah.
good
Yes.
to do theatre. And then just all the things that can affect you on the night, all those sorts of things that you have to become aware of and accustomed to and still continue your performance, whether someone is shouting drunk in the auditorium
Yes.
or something, you
Yeah.
know. So I love the live adrenaline that you get. I remember when I was doing the theatre show with doing Diana Ross, and of course,
Okay.
there's always someone in the front row that's fallen asleep.
Oh no. Oh
Like,
no.
really? Really?
Oh no.
And it's always funny because in the beginning, you probably are thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done? How am I bored? Am I boring? You know,
No.
when you realize that after a while you get so used to it, there's
Mhm.
so many different people that come to your shows that
Mhm.
but I love that. It's
Mhm.
so real, even though it's highs and lows. But overall, I feel like it always feels good. The wardrobe malfunctions. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not like more wardrobe malfunctions are ever good, but
No.
you laugh about it afterwards. You laugh about how your wig was on sideways, or you didn't have time because you couldn't see in the dark, or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and it's always fun to have that experience with the rest of the cast, which you're all a team and someone tripped over in the dark and you're trying not to laugh as you go on stage. just it's just a fun experience together. Film and TV is similar, but then because it's not live, you tend to have these ebbs and flows where when you're shooting and everybody is present and on set. And then, of course, just as quickly as a scene starts, you have to move on to the next one.
Mhm.
So there's not as much time to sort of, you're not hanging around. It's kind of, okay, we finished your stuff now. Okay, you can go home or you just come in tomorrow or whatever. Whereas it's 2 hours straight of theatre, start to finish, you're with each other from the beginning to the end, um, and you talk about it afterwards. but I think I like the medium of film. I like the option to have another chance at doing it and finding ways to make it better. And
Yeah.
because it's collaborative and, you've got set deck and all of those things that can change, props, then being able to work with that in every scene, which is always different, unlike theatre, the set is going to be the same and all of that. I love being able to play around with that stuff on TV.
There's a great balance, I guess you would
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
both mediums are fantastic. And actually, funny story, you mentioned one of your shows, someone fell asleep. So on a class trip in 11th grade, I was not one to fall asleep, but we went to New York and one of the shows we saw was Arcadia, which is like a 3-hour show.
Oh, wow.
And at one point, it was towards the end of the play, another girl that was on the trip with us, we looked over at each other and one of our faculty chaperones had fallen asleep and then the play ended and then she just like woke up all of a sudden and started crying
Oh no.
with each other like, you were asleep the whole time. Why are you
You don't deserve to clap.
Oh.
Well, that's so amazing, Natasha, that you've gotten to experience both theater and obviously movies and when calls. And so, what was your first big role? And was that role in TV, theater, or film?
Definitely, I would say it was theatre. My first real big role was definitely in theatre. And that was, because I was playing Diana Ross for 6 years. So in itself, that was a big learning curve for me in the beginning to learn about her and watch all her performances, her mannerisms, just to see how she interacts with her crowd. And I was really lucky to get that as my first real job when I first started out. And the thing is with TV and film, that tends to start. Usually, you have a little bit of a lead into it. You might start with a smaller role, and then, maybe your second, third, fourth job is now something a bit more substantial. But with theatre, yeah, I was really lucky to be able to have that experience straight away because I think it helped with TV and film, having to just dive into the idea of theatre and what is required of you when you do theatre. So it almost made my experience on TV a little bit easier because I realised certain things you don't need to carry across with you. But then there are other things like technical issues, marks and angles and things that you don't really think about when you're on stage.
Yeah. That's amazing you got to play the role of Diana Ross. She is a fantastic.
Yes, yeah, it was really nice to actually be able to go and find her wardrobe. Anything, to get the wig and the dresses and the feather boas and the big jackets and stuff. It was really fun to be able to portray her. And I mean, I think the show itself is still going, but I was so glad I was able to do that for 6 years.
Yeah. One of the best vocalists, I think, of all time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I do like a Supreme song,
Yes. And not a lot of our generation knows the oldies music, but I grew up on oldies like 60s and 70s music from my dad. We would ride to school. Like he would take me to school and we would listen to the oldies station.
Oh, yeah. You see, that's good. I mean, all that music, people need to never forget it.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes. I still love listening to oldies. It's one of my favorites. My Spotify is full of oldies. I have an oldies playlist, in fact, that I just love so much.
Me too.
Yeah, because there were so many different, back then, there were so many varieties of genre.
Yeah.
And then you could go from one to the next and they can sound so different, even if it's similar, but they sound so different. The Supremes had a very specific sound. like some of the Four Tops or the Temptations had a very specific sound, and you can always pick them out, you know?
Yes.
That's always nice. I
Yes.
always have them on somewhere on my shuffle. There's always something. You just have that, yeah, that like feeling, that 60s feeling. You just want to
Yes.
get into that zone.
Yes.
This
Love
was
that.
70s, but I've actually had the opportunity to meet America and Loggins and Messina as well, which was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been cool.
It was my dad back in the 80s or 90s, he did a songwriters in the round with Jim Messina, and
Yeah.
that's how he was able to get backstage passes for us. He knew Jim
Oh,
Messina, which is pretty cool.
oh,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah, really
Wow.
nice. And Kenny Loggins is so tall. Like he,
Is he?
yes, he's like 6 feet or something.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I didn't even realize he was that tall.
Yes.
No, some people, they don't look the same on screen. You think they're taller or
Yeah.
shorter. Or...
mm,
It was a lot of fun though.
oh.
Before we move on to the next question, is there a favorite theater production you have been a part of?
Oh, actually, I did a theatre show here in Vancouver
Okay.
called Snowflake. That was
Okay.
a really good piece to be part of. Uh, Outside of Diana Ross, and then to be honest, doing Snowflake when I was here, I hadn't done I switched straight into film and television. So I
Okay.
never ended up going back really to theatre. Although I had auditioned for certain things. I'd auditioned for Dreamgirls and
Mm.
and then it was just one of those decisions. Do I want to, because Dreamgirls is Motowny, obviously, and you're like, do I want to do this again, or should I try and see if I do something
Yeah.
completely different and learn something new?
Oh, that's
Mm.
awesome. And I
Yeah.
actually have heard of Snowflake. I
Mm.
believe it was produced by Aaron and Kate Craven. I've had both of them on the podcast.
Yes, they
Oh,
did do it. Their
Yes.
company, Mitch and Murray Productions, I love them.
Yes.
They're
Yes,
just so
they're
great.
amazing.
Yes, they are. They do so much for Vancouver theatre
Yeah.
scene, and
mm.
I always, for some reason, I'm in England whenever they have their plays on, and I always seem to miss them. But
Oh,
they're always good when I have the opportunity to actually see them.
yes. Yes. It was such a pleasure talking with them, such kind human beings.
Oh,
Both.
yes, yes, they really are.
What would you consider the most challenging aspect of the audition process?
Probably finding the character.
Okay.
Finding the character, because there are times where I'll read sites and it will make sense to me immediately who this person is, what she would be like, etc. And then there are other times where you know what's on the page, but trying to make it natural for you can sometimes be a bit difficult. And there's no, for me anyway, I don't usually find there's any rhyme or reason behind it. And I will keep doing a scene and, oh, it's not sitting well with me. It's not sitting right. And I don't really know why. And there's always just something in finding that character that when you find them, that it feels good to you. Now, it doesn't always mean that you're going to book the job, but the point is it's authentic to you and what you want to create for this
Yeah,
character.
that's great. And
Yes.
when you're given a role, what is the process like for learning the script and getting into that character?
Well, I know for many people it's many things, but for
Yeah.
me, I I seem to have a very good memory. So I usually read through the sides once or twice just to get the gist of the scene.
Mhm.
And usually once I've read it a couple times, there's lines that I would already know. They just stick in my head.
Yeah.
Um, and then I just sit there and I just go over and over and over again until it gets into my head. And then the more I read it, I usually record myself doing the scene so I can see what I think would work and what wouldn't. And so I can play around with it before I actually shoot it and get some idea of what I think would look good in the audition. So it usually takes a few, maybe I would probably say a couple hours, but I split that up during the day. So I'll do it and then I'll leave it for a couple hours and then I'll just reread the lines again. And like gradually throughout the day, it will just end up going into my head. Because I know some people, they have to sit and just do it in that moment. Whereas that for me, I don't know, it just doesn't work. I have to like read it and then leave it alone and then come back to it.
That's a great process. I love that. And I would probably do the same thing. Work on it, take a break, and then go back to it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I find it goes in better that way for me.
Yes.
Well, that's so awesome, Natasha. So, moving on to Hallmark Channel, your work outside of When Calls the Heart includes projects such as Love at First Spark, Sweet Revenge, a Hannah Swenson mystery, The Journey Ahead, and Legend of the Lost Locket. So, could you tell us about how you got connected with the network? And are there any fun memories to share from filming those movies?
Gosh, how did I get connected with the network? Do you know the first job that I booked with Hallmark was, I think that was Harvest Moon.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Peter DeLuise was directing.
Yeah.
And I went in for what was originally, I think, her Patricia Isaac played the role of Jesse Sharam's friend, best friend, and I'd originally gone in for that role. And then Peter didn't realize I was British. And when he did, he asked me to do the audition again in British as well. And then I think he liked the character I brought so much that even though I didn't get the role of the friend, he wanted to put me in there anyway. And I ended up being the cashier and he wanted me to use my British accent for that. So that was the first time I'd actually done something on Hallmark. And then from then, The Bridge was the next one I did with Mike Roll, another When Calls director. And we did 1 and 2, and it was actually from that Love at First Spark, I think it helped with Love at First Spark because Mike Roll did that one as well. So when I went in for the audition, they remembered me and they knew who I was. So I think that was of some help, that they knew what I was like as an actor playing that kind of role. Love at First Spark, actually, the Love at First Spark, that shoot was supposed to be a spring movie. And Vancouver had a very late winter. It was sort of -2 outside, and they were thinking, how are we going to make this place look like spring when there is snow everywhere? And a lot of the scenes, especially in their place of work where Owen and Cindy worked, the way they had to shoot it is the doors had to be open because the cameras had to be in, and it was so cold. So cold. Anytime I was sitting at the desk, there was a heater under the desk, just keeping my legs warm for as long as I was seated until I had to stand up. But no, that was a fun shoot. Obviously, I met Kevin there, and we had a nice chat. So that was really good. And the bridge was actually shot on Vancouver Island in Victoria. And that was actually the first time I'd been to Victoria. So it was nice because I had time to obviously take in the scenery as well as do the shoot. And a lot of the locations for the bridge, the house they used and things were in really nice areas. So that was fun. But of course, Legend of the Lost Locket is probably the most fun I've had on a Hallmark movie. It again, the weather again. It was very, very cold.
Yeah.
There are a lot of heating pads
Mhm.
on shoulders and backs and stomachs and everywhere you could put one to just keep us warm. But that was definitely the most interesting and fun shoot to be on because I was working
Was
with
it?
Viv, but to have it be our project
Yeah.
made it even more exciting because then you have an opinion on certain things and then you can actually see them coming to fruition collectively, and that feels really good.
Yeah.
Mm.
I really enjoyed that movie. That was one of my favorites of 2024. And I also loved
Oh,
there
yay.
were other When Calls the Heart cast on there as well. Rothgar was a part of that
Mhm.
movie as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was great as the mayor.
Yes, he
He
was.
was just great.
He did a great
It's
job.
just, it was, yeah, it was just definitely that role was for
Yeah.
him.
Yes. Loved the mystery aspect of the movie as well. I've said this on
Mm.
other podcast episodes, but sometimes I enjoy the mysteries more than the rom-coms, and I like that that movie was a little bit of a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really wanted to. So the contact we had at Hallmark,
Mhm.
she usually does the rom-coms on the Hallmark
Okay.
channel.
Mm.
So we knew that even though we ideally wanted a mystery, we needed to blend the two in some way. And I actually am glad that we did that as opposed to making it one or the other.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think it was nice to have Amelia's character be independent in her own right, to have her own line of work that she's successful in, and her need for Marcus is to assist her in her journey, as opposed to he knows everything and I'm kind of flailing in the wind, you know. And I really I loved that aspect of it, that they ended up sort of working together and no one knew more than the other or anything like that. They got to this place where they were working on the mystery together. But I also liked that in the beginning, or even for like a third of the movie, it was focused on her getting to know the town and what she was there to do. So
Yeah.
it didn't solely relate to she had an ex that she said no to who's come to win her over or anything like that, you know.
Yeah.
She had a completely different reason for going to another town, and I just really liked that. I liked that she had her own backstory that was quite strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's so interesting to hear you mention weather and just conditions of filming, because that's something I never really thought of before when watching a movie, but I've learned so much just
Yeah.
from hearing behind the scenes about when calls, and especially in a place like Vancouver. I'm sure I'm in Minnesota, I'm in the Twin Cities, and so I definitely understand the late spring. We pretty much have that every year. We're in a storm warning right now. So I'm sure that affects a
Yeah.
lot, but I'm sure you find yourself, like you've said, you just have to keep doing your job and roll with the punches. And at viewers, we can't even tell. So you guys do great.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, in Lost Locket, both Viv and I, we feel like we identified a point in the film where we were thinking, we clearly look cold. I don't know that this is being covered up very well. My nose had gone red, and we were trying to talk, clenching our jaws because we were trying not to shiver. But we can see it when we watch it, but
Yeah.
no one else can. So that's
Yeah.
the main thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the movie magic.
Movie magic.
Yeah, exactly.
If given the opportunity, would you and Viv be interested in a mystery series together, possibly? I know I would love to see that.
Absolutely. Just the idea of an antique dealer or a historian
Yeah.
being able to work with the police department.
Yeah.
And you sort of think, well, of course, the storylines would lean towards something that has historical value,
Yeah.
or an antique involved, but that's actually different. It's
Yeah.
fun. So we would love to explore that, because then it allows us to go on a journey that doesn't necessarily only involve murder, like Lost Locket didn't need to, but it can still have that mystery element as well.
Yeah. I think it would be amazing. And Haley Dean was one of my favorite mystery series.
Ah,
Of course,
yeah.
Viv was on that
Yeah,
show as a
exactly.
detective.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So it's nice. It would be, because I know he'd love to play
Yeah.
a detective again.
Yeah.
So it would be something that we'd love to do if we can.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite role on and off Hallmark that you've had the opportunity to play throughout your career?
Favorite role? I did a show in 2015 called Unreal.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yes, I was in the first season. That was the funnest character for me to play. Um, it's so different. I mean, Minnie is so different to me, but she, Athena, the character of Athena was so out there that to play her, it really was a memorable moment for me. And actually, it was my first really big role in a show. So for that reason as well, but mostly because it was such an out there character. Because often you don't always get to play really unusual characters. If you're the best friend, the girlfriend, they're all very kind of mellow characters. So when you get to play someone completely different, it's really feisty as she was, it does stick with you.
Oh, that's amazing. And I believe other Hallmark actors have been on that show. I will have to check it out. I've heard it's great.
Yes, Andrea was on the show as
Yes.
well. She was one of the contestants on the same season that I was on. I think in some later seasons there were a couple people from the show that was on there, but I cannot think of who. But I think so. Yeah, there's been a few.
Brennan Elliott, I believe, was another one on that show as well.
That's right. He
Yes.
he was the host.
Yes. He's great
Yes.
too. I've had him on the
Yes.
show.
Yes, he's great. He
He's
really
lovely to
is.
talk to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We love him. And Natasha, can I ask, Unreal, was that the show that it was a show about The Bachelor, kind of?
Yes, like a show within a show.
Okay.
Yes.
I did see the first season, I believe. I'll have to go back and watch. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased to the first season because I was part of it, not necessarily because of my role, but I was just part of it, and so I saw so much stuff. And I guess because it was the original idea in the first season of the first concept, they had, some great stories, and they played out really, really well. So I love the first season. It's the best.
So cool.
So, which role has had the biggest impact on you and why? And do you have a favorite genre you enjoy working in the most?
Biggest impact would be for a role that is, oh, no, wait. That role or that role?
It's a tough question.
Okay, I'm going to say both. Okay, there are two roles. So I did an episode of Tracker.
Okay.
Awesome.
And I loved playing in that world of, because my character was kidnapped and tied up, and it's a very emotionally loaded bunch of scenes. And actually, for some reason, I really like when I have to be pushed to go certain places with my acting, and I have to explore that and really just let go, because there's a lot of characters where you can play them quite in a standard way, and that's all they need, and there's no requirement to really emotionally get involved in it. But the other role is so Final Destination 6 is coming out in May 16th. And it's a role that it's horror. I'd never done horror, and I'd always wanted to do horror. And horror is just fun. Horror is great. So that was a great role for me. Definitely one I will never forget.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that's amazing. How exciting. Do you like scary movies then?
Yes, not so much. There's not many new scary movies that I love. Like I used to like The Omen, the original Omen.
I've heard of that.
Classic.
I did see the remake, and I just didn't have the same. I don't know. I guess, back in the day, the horror movies were a little more basic, so they had to try harder to scare
True.
you, right? There wasn't a whole ton of CGI and VFX to create all the blood and, whatever it is. I do quite like a horror. I don't mind a horror. I mean, not by myself, but
No.
Once in a while, it's fun. Yeah.
yeah.
I can't do them by myself. No, thank you.
No, exactly. No, just no.
Yeah.
No, and speaking of that, there was one time I don't know how old I was, but I was at my grandmother's house and one of my cousins were over there spending the night. And this was at a time when my grandmother had a TV in her room with, I believe, a DVD player. And I had put Gilmore Girls on. And then I fall asleep and I wake up to my cousin watching one of the Ring movies and I could not.
Oh no. Sad.
Oh yeah, no, then you're traumatized for life.
Yep, it was the one with the girl scratching the walls like, no, thank you. Nope.
Like never watching that again.
I haven't seen it. I should watch it. I want to watch it because people talk about it.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a good idea though.
Oh, so fun. Well, let's talk a little bit about When Calls the Heart.
Yes.
And for Nicole and I, and I'm sure we can speak for many viewers, Minnie truly is one of our favorite characters. She is so beloved. I remember the Canfield specifically were one of my favorite things about season 8, just meeting you all for the first time. And so could you share a little bit about how you got that role? And were you a fan of the show before joining the cast in season 8?
So I didn't know a lot about the show, although because I knew Andrea was on it and we were friends already, I knew that she was there. And at that time I was spending quite a lot of time in the UK and we didn't get it in the UK. But I did know of it. It was when I got sent the audition, I automatically did not think that this role they'd give me for no real reason. I just like, no. I think they're going to want someone who has, been in Canada forever and they know them on the Hallmark channel or something. But doing the audition, it definitely felt like it was one of those auditions where in 2 seconds flat, I knew exactly who I thought Minnie was going to be. I knew how she was going to wear her hair, what jewelry she would wear, her wardrobe, and then her accent. I had just decided that was how she was going to sound. And I remember finishing the audition. I was staying at home with my mum, and I just said to her, if this isn't Minnie, then the job isn't for me. And that's basically it, because I said I don't see Minnie any other way. And it just so happened that they saw Minnie the same way I did.
And we would agree with that. Yes.
Yes. We
Thank you.
can't imagine anyone else in this room.
Truly.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite character in Hope Valley?
I feel like Hickham's really come into his own over the last few years.
Yeah.
I've always loved Florence and Ned.
Yes.
I think their pairing is always very, very cute.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because I can actually think of every single character for one reason or another as to why I actually really like what they do. I mean, Gowan is
Yes.
amazing. He's,
Yeah.
Martin is an amazing actor.
Mhm.
And I've only had, I think, one scene with him. I would love to do more scenes with him. He's really great to work with.
We would love that
Oh,
too.
we love that. Yes.
Yeah. Martin is fantastic.
Hmm.
They all are. The whole cast.
Yeah.
We love
Oh, yes.
it's an
Mhm.
ensemble cast.
Yes. And Natasha, just quick shout out to your accent. It is incredible.
Yes.
I didn't know for the longest time that you're British. And so kudos to you. That is probably one of the best accents I've ever heard. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. While I've been in Canada, I've always had to do an American accent. And that is how Peter in Harvest Moon didn't know I was already British. He didn't even realize it. But I'm really happy that,
Yeah.
it's being received the way it has been. And nobody thinks that I am Brit. Well, they know now. They know now. We
Yeah.
all know now
Yes.
that I'm British because
Yeah.
for the people that were watching Lost Locket, there were some people because they don't watch When Calls,
Yeah.
and they commented. They said, "Oh, I don't think I want to watch this because I hate when the Americans try to do British accents." And I
You're
was
like, excuse me.
okay, well, thank you.
I am not pretending.
Oh my gosh.
It's that believable that you think I'm faking my noise. No, it was funny to see that, and I just thought, well, that's good. I'm glad that people think that. I'm not offended by it in any way at all. I'm doing the job I should be doing
Yeah.
because I would absolutely be mortified if I had to find out that people were thinking, yeah, her accent's a little mixed. It's kind of on and off. Not really. Yeah, I'd hate that. Hate
Oh my
that.
goodness. Like Brennan mentioned with not knowing that you had a British accent. When I first started watching the show, I came in middle of season 4 when
Okay.
Daniel Lissing was still on the show as Jack Thornton.
Ah,
I had no
yes.
idea he was Australian.
Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great to be able to
Yeah.
switch
Switch
between the
accents.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So season 12, episode 8 saw Hope Valley put on a production of The Importance of Being Earnest. What was it
Yes.
like incorporating your theater background with that storyline into this season and getting to use your natural accent?
It was great. It was absolutely incredible. There were so many layers to that episode because there were moments that I was actually switching between the two accents,
Yeah.
which for me was really fun. I'd always wanted to do that. I'd always wanted to, in the moment, just to switch between the two. I mean, between takes, I don't speak in an American accent, but when you're doing it for a scene, you think a little harder about it and think, oh gosh, I've got to make sure that when I switch back into the American, it's exactly how it should be. Because, sometimes I suppose you could get a bit lazy between the two if you're switching on the spot. So, yeah, it was really fun to be able to play with that. And then having the theatrical side, again, another layer that just added to it for me, going to see Barbara to try on the suit and all the rest of it and really turn it into a character. And then, of course, just the moment with my stage fright when I feel more confident to say the importance of being earnest and finding that British accent that was Minnie. Because it's so easy when you go back into your own accent to be you. So it was trying to figure out if Minnie was speaking in a British accent, how would she sound?
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't really know if I sound exactly the same as I did when I was speaking British on there or I didn't, but it was definitely a thought I had to have before I figured out which accent she had.
We really enjoyed that storyline and thought that all of you did a great job. on the
Oh
with the
yeah,
play.
we all had such a good time that day, and for the cast members in the background who weren't part of the play, you know, they were tickled by it the whole time,
Yeah,
and Erin stayed and watched us
that's amazing.
every single take because she so entertained by it,
Yeah.
and you know, everybody was entertained by it.
Mhm.
It's just fun to hear us all play with that, because as actors you don't often get to do something like that, play within a
Yeah.
show. So to then play a character outside of the character you're already playing,
Yeah.
you really get to spread your wings a bit and have a lot of fun.
Yeah. You know,
It was such a fun scene. We really did enjoy it. And I thought it was so fun how your characters still all got in costume.
yes.
Even though you're on the
Yes.
radio, you all still dressed up and just got so into it.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so fun.
Yeah, you know, it was a topic of conversation for, I mean, I wasn't necessarily in the conversation, but I know it became a topic of conversation. Should we still dress up or should we not bother? But definitely add that to Ned's sound effects, and
Oh,
Oh,
I
it
was
couldn't be any
rolling
way.
on the floor. Oh my goodness.
that was amazing. Yes, Rothgar did a great job.
Amazing.
He
Yeah,
did.
he's
He
great.
Yes.
So the Canfields were a big part of this past Sunday's episode with Angela visiting the Schwartzman School. What has been your favorite part of Angela's story arc this season? And is there anything you can tease about the Canfields, these remaining 3 episodes?
did. Um, I Angela's journey this season, I think it was a really nice family journey,
Yeah.
you know, and it was definitely a big learning curve for Minnie. We saw Minnie in a state of unknown, which she isn't normally in. So I think it was nice to see her go through that with Angela, and they switched positions by the end of the episode. I think Vienna played it so beautifully. And when we did the day at the Schwartzman School, all the actors were visually impaired, and it made for a really meaningful day and just generally a proud moment to be on the show and to be part of that. And, you know, I know Vienna, she learnt so much, as we all did. And Keisha, who played Clementine, and Ginny, who played Emma, you know, it was so fun to be around them. And I know Vienna got on with them very, very well as well. So it was just a really beautiful day for so many reasons outside of what was seen by the audience. So collectively, it made for a very special moment on the show.
We think so too. And the scene with Minnie and Angela at the end of this past Sunday's episode was one of our favorites.
You know, it was nice to be able to speak to Angela like that for a change, and not just speak to her as a mother, and recall something that the two of them did that was fun, and something to help her feel at ease, as opposed to giving her straight advice. You know, she wanted to level with her and make sure that, okay, I'm going to come at this from a different angle now, so we can be in the same place and you can see, remember how fun it was, remember what you were able to do, which you can obviously still do and should continue to do. So we really liked, because initially we were trying to work out how we were going to do the scene, where we were all going to be, and we ended up with her sitting down and me kneeling, crouching beside her. I feel like that really helped the intimacy of the scene.
We think so too.
Absolutely. And one of the many things we love about Minnie is she is such an incredible mother.
She really is.
Yeah, Minnie is Minnie is like all knowing, all seeing. I mean, like I'm so tired of her knowing everything. I wish she would share some of her wisdom. No, uh, yeah, Minnie, I think this season it's been nice to sometimes see her in that position where she needed to learn from Joseph. She needed to learn from Angela.
Yeah.
Because I think we've always seen her being the one that always knows. And this time the roles were reversed, and it makes her more human, I think, and relatable to an audience to see that even the strongest person or the one that seems to be able to always figure it out, sometimes they can't figure it out when the situation is so close to them.
Yeah.
And I've said this on some of our season 12 reviews, but this storyline with Angela wanting to attend the Schwartzman School, that has been one of my favorite storylines, I think, for the Canfields and just overall, especially being a fan of Little House on the Prairie and knowing that
Yes.
that was a storyline with Mary Ingalls. So
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. I mean, it's always nice being that, Michael Landon Jr., his show as well. It's nice to be able to have some of those throwbacks and bring them together, because it's the one thing everybody remembers, Little House on the Prairie, So it was nice to actually see on Twitter that people recognize that scene or the similarity of that scene and how relevant it was then as it is now. It's just really nice to make those connections.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, such a special story for the Canfields and this season. I agree.
Yes, yeah. I would definitely say for us, it was, I mean, I know we had the story with Mr. Landis and then in season 8 with Angela going to school or not. This one, I think it's definitely the best storyline so far for the Canfields. Having grown in Hope Valley over the years, it's, yes, definitely one of the best. To see Minnie almost in the same position that she was in season 8, but she dealt with this one slightly differently this time. And I was glad that we were able to play it that way, and especially that last scene between the two of them.
We were too.
Yes.
As we mentioned, Minnie is one of our favorite characters. We love her wisdom, kindness, and strength of character. What do you love most about Minnie?
I mean, you've said it all, really. Her strength of character, her wisdom.
Yeah.
I love that she's able to always find light in the darkness somewhere along the lines for pretty much everyone at some point or another. But yeah, as I said, I think it's nice that sometimes it's a bit hazy for her as well, and she's got something to work through. So the audience can follow her in a slightly different way, but she still has that same wisdom. And in reference to the final 3 episodes coming up, we definitely see Minnie doing what she does best.
We can't wait to see it.
We're excited.
Yes. So hard to believe that the season is almost over.
I
Yes,
know. We're not ready.
Quick.
We're not ready for it to end at all. We're never ready for this show.
No.
Just keep going.
Yes.
More than 12 episodes.
We do.
Just like 122 and then
like Little House.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Is there a storyline with the Canfields you've enjoyed the most over the past few years?
Oh, I would say the story with Mr. Landis was probably one of my favorites because it was a family story and, it just involved everyone, and it was dealing with something that was so important, such an important matter, as was the Schwartzman School. But I feel like with this, because it was in the town, it was in Hope Valley, it was always about preserving what Hope Valley stands for,
Mhm.
but also creating that little bit of conflict, which had been done. And I think it was molded together quite well. And it was a nice story to actually be able to tell.
Yes, we
Mm,
think so too. And two of
mm.
my favorite scenes with the Mr. Landis storyline, I think one was in the season 8 finale when all the kids kind of stood up for Angela and
Yes.
Cooper, well, especially Angela, and
Yeah.
kind of had
Yes.
her back
Hmm.
and decided they weren't going to go to school if she wasn't going to be able to go to school.
Yeah,
Mm.
I remember that scene. That was a really sweet scene. And everyone
Yes.
shows up at the door, and we're just
Yes.
like, what is everyone doing here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one from
Yes.
season 9 when Angela plays the piano with Mr. Landis. That was
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. That was such a great trajectory
Yeah.
of that story with Mr. Landis
Hmm.
through that episode. It
Hmm.
was just, or through that season, I should say. But by the time it got to the point where he did come over for dinner, and that was such a hard decision to make to even allow it, and then try to convince the family to
Mhm.
try and give him a chance
Yes.
and do what we do as a family best, stand united and show that we believe that you can change. And he did. It changed
Hmm.
his heart. So
Right.
it worked.
Yes.
Hmm. Right. And it is so incredible from how we first met him to then he's playing piano with Angela in the Canfield's home. As viewers, we never could have imagined that, but that
Yes.
was so amazing.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, it was a very meaningful story.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If the show is renewed for season 13, what are your hopes
Mhm.
for the Canfields in the future?
I think it would be nice to see Minnie's journey
Mhm.
now,
Yes.
um, after everything that's happened with Angela.
Mhm.
It would be nice to see her maybe go back to something that she loved doing
Yeah.
before she had children,
Mhm.
or because we don't really know what she used to study or
Hmm.
what she was working on before she had children, where she was working. So
Hmm.
it would be nice to explore either that or a different direction that she takes if she wants to perhaps try something new and unusual. And yeah, it would be nice to see her in territory that is completely unknown to her.
Yes,
Mm.
we would love to see
Yeah.
that. Fingers crossed
Yeah.
for season
Yes.
Yeah.
13. Yes. So moving away from the Canfields, now that Lucas and Edie have spent so much time in the cafe, what do you think Minnie thinks of their relationship?
Minnie is always hopeful for love.
Yes.
She's always, um, she, Minnie and Lucas have had their moments.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I think she finds it's nice to see
Hmm.
him getting on and standing up for what he believes in, and because
Yeah.
she was totally behind all of that.
Yes, she was.
So it would be nice, if their romance blossomed, and Minnie would be more than happy to help it along.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. Minnie the matchmaker. We would love that.
We'd love that. We need that too. Yes.
Yes. And we
Yes.
love Lucas and Edie together. Chris and
Mhm.
Miranda are fantastic together.
Yes, they are. They
Yeah.
are.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
really good.
Yes.
Mhm.
And we would love more scenes with you and Chris as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
do like
Mhm.
having my scenes
Yes.
with Chris.
Chris is
Yeah.
Again, they're far and few between, but they're
yeah.
always very nice, and the Hearties are always very complimentary of them. So
Mm.
yeah, it'd be nice to do some more.
Yes, it would.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. If you could choose a dream film project, what would the storyline be, and what kind of character would you portray?
Wow. Wow. Um, what kind of character would I portray? Hmm. I mean, I do like my dramas. I do very much like very dark, gritty dramas. So that would definitely be a project that I would really enjoy. I mean, would probably take its toll emotionally and mentally, but it's definitely something I would absolutely love to be part of and embark on.
Mm,
That would be amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah, we would love
We
to
would
see.
definitely watch.
Yes, definitely would.
Yeah.
So, do you have any other interest in the industry, such as writing, directing, and producing?
Well, I thought that I would have wanted to be a director. And then when Lost Locket happened, producing seemed to be my area. I really enjoyed producing. I didn't think I would at all, but I loved being able to be part of all the meetings and see how things get put together and how decisions get made. And definitely, I think producing, writing. I've been told to write before, and I just don't think I'll be very good at it. But I should probably at least try once.
Yes.
Mm,
We think
yes,
you would be a great writer, in our opinion.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Of
It is
course.
very difficult, and I know that because my dad has a screenwriter's degree from the University of Georgia, and we are actually working on a Hallmark movie together, and it is very difficult.
Oh,
Oh,
wow. Yes. Yes, they are.
Yes, but it's fun. We've had a good time.
Oh, yes, it's fun, but it's
Yeah,
more difficult than it originally appears.
yes. So before we get into our When Calls the Heart favorites game, are there any upcoming projects that Hearties can look out for in 2025?
Well, the one I mentioned,
Yes.
Final Destination 6, yes, May 16th. Why not go and watch it
Yeah.
in IMAX
Yes.
yeah.
just to get the full effect?
Love IMAX. It's the only way to watch.
Me too.
Mhm.
Hearties can check it out. Yes.
Yes, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Of
Mhm.
course.
Can't wait.
So our When Calls the Heart favorites game, favorite
Okay.
spot in Hope Valley.
Cafe, it has to be.
Yes, of course.
Come on now.
Yes.
Favorite filming location?
I quite like filming in the Queen of Hearts,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite spacious, so
Yeah.
and we usually have, the best group scenes there. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Favorite food from Minnie's Cafe.
favorite food from Minnie's Cafe. I mean, it's got to be fresh bread,
Yes.
doesn't it, really?
Well,
Can it
bread.
be anything else? I feel like fresh bread
Yes.
it can come any time of day at any meal,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it'll always be good.
Yes.
Lucas and Edie got to have some of that bread at their dinner this past episode. Yeah.
When it's actually fresh, like baked on the day.
Oh, yes.
Right.
No, of course.
I'm sure it was still delicious.
I know for me, if I were on set, I would love to try Minnie's barbecue.
Oh, me
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, that barbecue. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Agreed.
Yes.
Favorite Hope Valley couple?
Minnie and Joseph.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, am I allowed to say anything else?
Of course.
Of course, you can say Minnie and Joseph. We love them
Yes,
too.
absolutely. We love them dearly.
Favorite storyline that isn't the Canfields.
Just in case I was going to go there. No, what's favorite storyline? Lucas and Edie has been a really
Yeah.
nice storyline.
Mhm.
And
Sure has.
I think in some ways, just the development of Elizabeth and Nathan,
Mhm.
their world. But then, you know what? Mike and May are always, when their storylines are always comedic, and so there's some great light relief for the audience.
Yes.
We love all of that too.
Favorite episode?
Oh, favorite episode. Favorite episode. I want to say when the choir sang at the event and they did Amazing Grace and Jacob was there. but I really liked the episode because, all the cast was involved in that and that story, that part of that story as well. Yeah, I really liked that episode, and there was singing involved, so
That was really special because we had been wanting an episode like that for so long, just a musical episode. And it was so lovely. I loved that it was outside, and it was very special. Jack Thornton's brother was there, and it's a memorable one for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. And Joseph's brother was there, which we loved seeing. Doran, a part of
Yeah. Yes. There was, old faces and new faces, and it was a good episode.
It was. Yes. We've edited a lot of moments from that episode. It's a fave for sure.
And last one, favorite way to spend downtime on set?
Spend downtime usually is in the green room, unless it's summer, and it would be usually sitting outside, either talking to other cast members or crew members that are perhaps not required at that moment, and just catching up with them, because of course we don't see them until we usually go back to set, so it gives us a chance to get to speak to everyone again and catch up.
And we love the family aspect of the show and how close everyone is. It's great.
Yes. So it's definitely what tends to be seen on screen is often how we are real time, but it's contained on screen because it has to be. That's usually, we do have a lot of fun, and especially when we have a lot of the group scenes together, they're usually everyone's favorite days.
And it's really refreshing because we don't see that a lot with shows these days.
No, you don't. So it's nice to be able to sit here and confirm that we are 100% like that offset.
At the end of my interviews, I always ask my guests to share an inspiring quote or piece of advice. Do you have a great quote or piece of advice you would like to share?
Ooh, a piece of advice. Well, this comes up in the show. Coming up in the last few episodes, and it's something that my mother always believes in, and she always said to me to make sure that I have blind faith.
I love that.
Which is very difficult to maintain, but I've realized how important it is.
Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. We love that.
Yes.
And this was so much fun, Natasha. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. We had
thank you. It was great these were fun questions. They really were.
Thank you.
So it was great to talk about all of that.
Yes. It was thank you, Natasha. It was so lovely to meet you.
Yes.
All right, Hearties. Well, I think that is the end of our interview. Thank you so much for listening, and keep watching When Calls the Heart, Season 12, every Sunday at 9. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, Natasha.
Bye. Have a great one. All right, Hearties. I think that wraps up our interview with Natasha Burnett. If you enjoyed this episode and are watching on YouTube, you can like this video and share your favorite storyline with the Canfields and what you were looking forward to seeing with them the most the rest of Season 12 in the comments. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure to rate and review, as your feedback is always greatly appreciated. If you want to stay up to date on all of our reviews for the rest of the season, you can subscribe to this channel on YouTube or follow along on Spotify, and make sure to turn on the bell so you are alerted when new episodes come. You can also find the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Swing My Heart Podcast and Twitter at Swing My Heart Pod. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you soon for our review of episode 9 of season 12. We love y'all. Bye!